You'll now over to another real project, which is from Singh from Auriga Energy, and Jas is going to talk to us about the Bristol Hydrogen ferry. Jas, over to you.
Thank you very much. I said, can you hear me at the back? Right, good afternoon everyone. I've got the graveyard shift, so let's see if I can keep myself awake and you as well.
Alcohol at lunchtime.
Yeah, that's bad. Right, we'll cope somehow without the alcohol. Had a little shot of caffeine, and that will keep us going, right? Okay, so why are we here? What are we doing here? Because the drivers are the concern on climate change, pollution, the ever-increasing demand in energy, which is going to consume the fuels that we're using, and the price of oil and gas, which keeps going up, and we seem to keep coping. And yet, the presentation by Germanische Lloyd a few minutes ago was pointing to the fact there is a point somewhere where we'll crack. We'll say, no more, we can't take it. We've got to change to a different technology. So the governments have recognized this, and I left my day job at the end of 2006, and Jose Manuel Barroso must have heard about it, because he got up on the 12th of January 2007 and said he's got to help me out. He launched this post-industrial revolution to start what he said would be the green industries for Europe in the future, because we need a new industrial revolution, because all of our traditional jobs and our traditional industries are now migrating naturally to parts of the world where they can do them much easier, much cheaper, and not worry about health and safety all day long. And then following on that, in the UK, we passed the Climate Change Act in November 2008, and that gave us these numbers that we got to meet. Reductions in carbon dioxide output by 80% by 2050, far enough away not to worry about it. But 34% by 2020, all very easy when you're in a recession, because everybody's industries are switched off and things are down. But if we get our normal growth back, that's a nightmare. That's very difficult to achieve. So we got to, as Rex just said, we got to get out there and do something and actually do the business. So here we are. The answer is easy. I don't know why anybody doesn't follow the answer. And being in the materials and metallurgy department, I think I'd get on with it. So hydrogen is what we're talking about, and it's the most abundant element in the universe. There's plenty of hydrogen. We'll never run short. We won't have to fight wars to try and get hold of it. All the gas companies tell me is that the hydrogen that we consume, that I buy from them, that you buy from them now, is in essence, is a byproduct of their other industries, of the chemical processes in the chemical industries and in the oil refining industries and the fertilizer industries and all that. So in principle, there's no such thing. You could almost, because it would go to waste if we weren't using it, you could capture it for free if you turned up at their refinery and put a little jar over their flare point. Is that right, Stuart? Perhaps not. Anyway, ITM will tell you in a minute later on this afternoon that you can generate the hydrogen at the point of use by having your electrolyzers there, and then using wind energy and solar energy and waste recycling, which is my favorite, by the way. And you know about fuel cells, you combine hydrogen and oxygen and you get water as exhaust, so there's nothing difficult about that. So to me, it is a sustainable fuel, and it maintains the versatility of the current fueling systems of oil-based diesel and petrol. And we're talking electric boats, when you talk about electric vehicles, somebody should go and look at the film Who Killed the Electric Car? And it's the oil companies, the most powerful entities on earth. And they're not bad people. I know a lot of people who work in the oil industry. They're friends of mine. They're just like us. They're doing a job. They need jobs. So you don't want to put them out of a job. You want to change their mode of operation so that they survive. Their distribution networks survive. They manufacture hydrogen. All the versatility of a car and a boat and everything else is maintained. It is a sustainable fuel. So that's why we're doing this. What are the key challenges? Well, it's the old chicken and egg. Well, there's no one manufacturing enough hydrogen, and we can't deliver it. There's no supply infrastructure because there aren't any products to use it. We don't have a supply chain, and no one can, as was mentioned earlier on, that the marine industry does not have people with screwdrivers. They have people with spanners. Simplistically speaking, we need the service industry who can handle hydrogen, the fuel cell electrical systems, and be able to maintain them and repair them. Then Rex's business and the business of this department is sorting out the storage and storing hydrogen in a good density. That's beyond my capability, so I leave that to the experts there. And the safety perception. Now, we are always worried about anything new, and there's a sort of like a public worry about safety of hydrogen. And the Hindenburg gets mentioned when nobody else can come up with any rational argument. So you slap your hand over your forehead and say, no, no, no. So we've got to bring the public up to steam and make sure that they understand and they're familiar with these new technologies that we're deploying. So bearing that in mind, I came up with this project idea to say, get it out there and bring it to the public so they are comfortable with it. So, oh, sorry, I forgot my little, this is where I perceive we are at the moment. We're at the red flag. I find in building my hydrogen systems and trying to get them out there, I've taken years to get to this stage. I keep coming across these guys who say, no, no, we need people walking with red flags in front of you because this is really dangerous. No, we shouldn't have it. So what we've done, I produced our hydrogen fuel cell systems attacked them for a variety of market areas where I find that there will be a good traction to get it out there in the public and make sure that it picks up. And the first one is for use in the water in the marine industries for ferries and canal boats. And I lobbied hard with Bristol City Council since 2003 and finally got them to issue an ITT. We put in a bid and we won that, and we are here building the fuel cell ferry. I'll talk about that in a minute. In parallel, we've been developing our UPS backup power systems, and those we launched earlier this year in January, and they're out there in operation. We're working in electrical forklifts and other products to come. So we're building our fuel cells, I said 1 kilowatt. We're actually down to 0.5 kilowatt now because a particular customer has demanded it. We've got a modular system which builds it from 0.5 kilowatt upwards and we're in discussion with a customer. When it gets up to somewhere near 100 kilowatts, then we're struggling, but that's about the limit of our system as currently defined. We build up the modules. So what are the benefits? You know about this, I'll just quickly run through them. Emission-free, there's no toxic waste, gives you the versatility of current petrol diesel systems that you got with refueling, virtually unlimited run times. Reliability was mentioned earlier on this morning, and fuel cells are reliable. Reliable is that they work, but everything, you and I, everything, this laptop, this microphone has a lifetime. So at the moment, the challenge is with fuel cells. In fact, I don't think it's a challenge because some of the fuel cells that we use now do produce a long life. But the general challenge for the fuel cell industry is that the number of hours that they work is considered limited. But then they can be easily recycled and replaced. There's low maintenance, there's no new moving parts to replace. They're quiet, of course, electrical systems, lightweight, which is a pain for trying to put them into forklifts where the battery systems and engine systems are currently used as counterweights. And also in the boat industry, we're putting our kit in the boat and we say, no, hang on, this is now a little bit too light, we've got to balance it out, put some ballast in, and to get it under that bridge, we need to have it sitting lower in the water. So it's not always a benefit to be lighter. Safety, well, they are safe. And I'm glad to see that everybody was out there looking at that, the fuel cell, the 3 or 4 fuel cells that are operating out there, and nobody's panicking and running out of the door. So we're all obviously comfortable with the safety of these systems. Well, I've said the rest, so let's move on from that. So this is our backup power system, which we launched with our partners, Linnet Technology, UPS installers in Stirling at their headquarters back in January. It's mounted in a UPS in a 19-inch rack system, and what you see there is 3 kilowatts and the kilowatts. So it gives you all of the benefits that I've outlined. And we've done the cost analysis. If you analyze these systems in a through life cost, the costs are compatible with the systems that they're replacing. So we're talking waterways. When the world talks about we're worrying about global warming and CO2 emissions, people talk about trying to stop you flying. Just stop cars and let's stop flying, because that's the obvious visible emitters of CO2. But what's missing, people have taken their eyes off the waterways and ports. If you stood on a hill overlooking a port, you would see a sulfur bubble, just as you see if you stood on a hill overlooking an airport or a city. It's just a big yellow bubble. And so, and I've got lots of reports of analyses done of port pollution around the world, mostly in America, because they do a lot of analysis on these points. And they are worried. This particular analysis done by the NRDC, which is the National Research and Defense Council in the US, of a port, I think it's Santa Barbara in California. They do it by analysis there that you've got the marine vessels are polluting about a third of the particulate emissions, 40%, and a third of the NOx emissions. And then you've got the heavy trucks going in and out and the cargo equipment. And the thing that the general population and the politicians are focused on is that 1%. That's the cars going in and out of the port. So you're missing all of that and focusing on that. I think there's something that's missing here, and we're here to address it. There's also barges were mentioned, and there's another report I have of the pollution level in the Rhine and the Ruhr. The Rhine and the Ruhr is used as an industrial highway for transporting goods in the industrial belt of Central Europe. So this is the analysis taken further. So if you're thinking you're trying to solve a problem, the problem is that the world is coming to an end because of global warming, temperatures rising 2 degrees, and we all fry. So why not rather than sticking to our political gums that we want to stop people flying and we want to stop this, that, and the other, address the problem and say, where can we make the biggest difference? So this is the analysis in America, and they're saying that if you sorted the problem in the 10 largest container ports in the US, you would achieve the same as changing millions of cars to a different type of fuel or different mode of transport. So that is what we need to do, is to address this point and solve it with a bigger step than the small steps that we can do with changing people's mode of transport. Then there are treaty commitments. The MARPOL Treaty, Marine Pollution Treaty, was signed in 1973 by 125 or something like that countries, all the countries of the world that were there at the time. Annex 6 was signed in 2003, and that is a commitment by all the signatories that ships built after these dates will reduce their sulfur content to almost nothing. Tier 1 countries are the rich countries, Tier 2 the intermediate countries, and Tier 2 the poorer countries, and they get up to 2025 to sort themselves out. The richer countries have to sort themselves out from now, this year, last year, and 2010. And this is the exact wording of the legislation as it is written in EU legislation and in the UK legislation and every other EU country's legislation. These are the words that you have to reduce them. And here where they've got the ... that's me taking the words out, because there's an endless list of, they try to, you know what happens is people are looking for loopholes in the law. That's a list of all the cars and lorries and buses and tractors and lawnmowers, anything that they could think of that uses ports. So they listed them all to say, oh, hang on, mine's not a ship, I'm okay, mine's only a boat. And I've had that argument with another guy. He said, "Oh, yours is a boat, so it has a different rule to ships." Yes. And then there's the economic argument, and the fishing industry has been struggling for many years. All of my life, they've been moaning that it's just too hard to survive. So with the increasing price of diesel, they've had a bit of a problem, and Scottish fishermen got a grant out of the EU to try using hydrogen as their fuel to say, can we reduce the costs like that? And so everybody is looking for some way out, and hydrogen seems to work. This is not putting fuel cells into their trawlers. This is burning hydrogen in their current combustion engines. So we got a problem to solve. How do we solve the problem? I say we find the quickest and easiest solution to the problem and keep a focus on where do you want to get to. All the men cross their legs at this stage. So the Bristol Hydrogen Ferry project is designed to demonstrate the viability of fuel cells in ferry operations. That's stop, start, and operations on a daily basis. The question was asked earlier on, and Alex said that, okay, you know, the Ross Barlow is only used for experimental work. They haven't done all this continuous running stop-starts and all the rest. So, you know, this is where we will know how it operates in a ferry bus type operation where you're going from stop to stop, picking up passengers, and in all weather conditions. We want to quantify the CO2 reductions that we can make with this boat as compared to the diesel boat that we'll be replacing, and then project that if all the boats in Bristol Harbourside were using this sort of technology, what is the potential saving? And that gives everybody the politicians we just had in the room, you know, gives them a focus. There's something we can do here. We can achieve something. The biggest problem I've had is de-risking the installation and operation of the refueling infrastructure. Where do you put the refueling station? How do you sort that out? Then the certification, earlier on it was mentioned there are no certification rules, no insurance rules. You make a boat, you go online to whoever, money supermarkets or wherever you get your insurance from, or when you buy a hydrogen car, or you phone up Direct Line and say, I've got this hydrogen car, what's the insurance premium? And they'll say, it's not on our list. So what is it? It's a hydrogen car. No, it's not on our list. Sorry, can't insure it. Or we'll invent a number. How about £5,000 a year or something like that? So we need to resolve these issues. They're end-to-end, they're related issues. We want to inform them and educate the public, and we want to build a commercial case for other operators in Bristol at least and elsewhere. So we brought together a strong team, and our company, our joint company is called Bristol Hydrogen Boats, a consortium between ourselves in Auriga Energy, Number 7 Boat Trips and the Bristol Packet, who are operators of ferries and boat trips in the Bristol Harbour, and they've been there for many years. And Air Products came to us offering their services to supply the refueler, so they are partners in this project in supplying the refueling infrastructure. Being a council-funded project, we can't afford very much, so that's the boat. It's a steel construction. We didn't have a spare boat that we could modify, and then if you modify a boat, you take out its propulsion system, it loses its certification anyway, you have to recertify it. So why not build a purpose-built boat with all the right safety bulkheads and all the separations that you have to do. It's sized for 12 passengers because the MCA, the Maritime Coastal Agency, has very strict rules. We talked to them at the time of the proposal, we talked to them, and they said, well, we've got this set of rules for, which is like a lever arch file that deep, for certifying boats greater than 12 passengers, and in there are hundreds of pages, and there is no mention of hydrogen, there's no mention of fuel cells, there's thousands of mentions of diesel and engines and things, so therefore they cannot certify it against those rules, and there are no rules for hydrogen. So chicken and egg, so make it under 12 seats and then you can do what you like with it. It's a special wheel boat. We sized it to power 12 passengers, and we think it needs 12 kilowatts, so we're installing 12 kilowatts of our fuel cell system on there, and that is it. It's a steel construction boat, just very close to its final fit out now. We're completing the system, and it should be launched sometime in July. That's the construction where we have our fuel cells in the back compartment. There are 4 times 3 kilowatts fuel cells, so it's 12 kilowatts on board. Got our air intake and our exhaust of the water vapor plus the purged gases, and a carbon fiber filament wound tank which holds 4 kilograms of hydrogen at 350 bar, so that we can use a standard, or what was a standard when we started this project, the standard car refueling kit, 350 bar, and we have room for a second tank in there, but we can't afford it. We have our own power management system, motor controllers, and 2 Lynch motors, permanent magnet motors, which are powering the propeller. A battery for the buffer loads for the peaks and troughs, and of course we control it all from the front with our throttle. That, simplistically, is the Bristol Hydrogen Ferry. And we had a naming ceremony of it a couple of months ago, where the council, being a council project, they ran a competition in all their schools, in their junior schools, asked the kids to put forward names for this project, giving a reason for the names. And 142 names came forward, and we picked the one we liked, which is Hydrogenesis, suggested by this young lad. And he won a prize, and it's a certificate for him. And he had to give a reason for that. Hydro, for hydrogen, and Genesis being the first of. Clever young lad. And so we had this naming ceremony as the council leader. These are my partners from the boat operators and the boat builders, and the representative from Air Products. So our demonstration route will be in the centre of Bristol, where we are operating from near the SS Great Britain, going round to the centre and up to the shopping area here, and going backwards and forwards in the daily ferry routes. And the refuelling station is beyond here, just out there somewhere. So we've had some early success. The Sustainable Shipping Group gave us the Environmental Innovation of the Year award last year, which is a bit of a nice boost for us, and it gave us some recognition. And this group is composed by all of these. There's some big names in there. So in the shipping world, you've got Maersk Lines, Lloyd's, and numerous other big names. So we're getting the word out there, and these awards help in that, as well as boosting our confidence. So the challenges that we are to overcome is in the refueling location. It has to be in an area that is accessible by the public. We don't want it hidden away. We want to educate the public. We want to make them comfortable with it. So we don't want it hidden away in some industrial no man's land. We want them to see it. I would prefer for it to be dual use, water plus river. So we found a location which does have roadside access as well. If there were hydrogen cars, they could come up to it and use it as well. Because if you don't have that, one boat does not provide a commercial, or one car does not provide a commercial case for keeping a refueling station open. And this is an unattended one. If you have to pay an attendant as well as paying the ground rent and all the rest, then it's a dead duck. Everything has to be done, because it's on the water side, and the water side is controlled by the harbour master. It all has to be done with the harbour master's permission. We have to go through 2 planning departments in the council. There's a general planning department, and it's a historic town, so we've got lots of listed buildings, and even the harbour wall itself is a listed element. And so we had to go through that and get through there. It was on, and by its very nature, it's on the riverside, which is any bit of spare land on riverside near the town centre is a public right of way. It's a path for taking your dog on a walk, or having a walk yourself. And so we're now blocking a public right of way. And in all these discussions, I spent months and months going around talking to all the people, and everybody, you give them a presentation, you talk to them, say, brilliant idea, yeah, that's what we need to save the world in the future. We go, yeah, great. Not here though. Can you put it somewhere else? So not in my backyard applies to everywhere. Then the other thing I have is that the gas companies and in a minute ITM, all of these suppliers of these refueling systems, have this fear of safety, that they like drawing big round circles around everything. 8 meters, 5, 10 meters, 12 meters diameter circles around everything. So you've got to find all this empty spare land around which you've got to put this no-go area fence, and then you've got to say, this is the future. Yes. I'm glad that we were out there, and there were 3 gas bottles out there being used, and none of you were screaming that there isn't an exclusion zone around those gas bottles. And thank you, Stuart. You yourself showed great confidence in having your gas bottle. But if your guys were installing that gas bottle for me, they would put a 3-meter exclusion zone around it. And that's these are the sort of challenges we have. Yeah.
There are, I think, new codes and standards, particularly in the US, have been changing. So
they are, but
basically infrastructure to be put in place in a standard refueling joint where you don't have 8-meter diameters. So that will change. Yeah.
I look forward to it. But for the moment, it's a nightmare.
In the middle of an empty field.
Yes. So this is where we have to find an empty field, right? At the end of the day, we want these refueling systems for the cars in your local garage, in your local Tesco's, and you won't have any exclusion zones around there. You will have 100 different cars coming in, some getting fuel with diesel, some with petrol, some with LPG, some with hydrogen. And that's the way the economy is going to grow. That's where the way hydrogen economy is going to be introduced, not by this one step and not by finding empty bits of land, because there aren't any. If there are any, we should be building housing on there, because we haven't got enough housing anyway. So this is where we are. At the end of the Cumberland Basin, and we found a bit of empty land, and that has the access to from a roadside for the moment. It's not for car refueling because there aren't any, but for the tankers to come in and refuel the refueler, and the boats to be refueled on the water side. And whether this place is available or not, this is where I'd like the future thing to be, or something similar. So where do we want to go beyond this is to make it a permanent operation. This is a 6-month project to get past all those rules, to get it certified. We want to make it permanent so that it's always there operating and everybody's happy with it. Put in a permanent refueling station. This is a temporary installation, and then we'll go to that. And then we want to generate the hydrogen locally. It's going to get tankered in from miles away, which is it's obviously on a diesel tanker, which is generating CO2. So you can't go from where we are today to utopia in one step. We have to take it a step at a time to get that. So we've started discussions about generating the hydrogen locally from the council owns a wind turbine, and there is a solar project going on in the city. We're doing, there's a new waste recycling plant being opened in Avonmouth, and we're looking at water power as well, using the power of the river, the Severn and the Avon there, as being the source of the electricity from which we can electrolyze or generate water by waste, generate hydrogen by waste recycling. Certification. So the MCA has been engaged ever since we started the project. They've been in discussions with us and with the harbour master, who ultimately gives it the certificate to operate in his harbour. And the applicable regulations are the merchant shipping notice, which again is hundreds and hundreds of pages. And we make reference to the Germanische-Lloyd fuel cell installation and regulations, which were written around the ferry in Hamburg, and the DNV ones, which were written around the boat in Amsterdam. And Lloyd's Register said that their special services crafts rules are the ones that under special services crafts you can almost do clever things and different things. So that applies. And for the installation of the fuel cell and the refueling infrastructure, then you comply with the health and safety regulations, and you draw the circles or whatever diameter that you can get away with. The boat will be CE marked. It's almost there now. There's a daily conversation of several emails and phone calls going on with the certifying authorities, and so any week now it'll get certified. So this is the route to creating a sustainable future for us all. We create an end-to-end system, get the refueling infrastructure in place, sort out the planning permission, the certification rules, the insurance and all the rest of it. We need the local supply industry. When I have my progress meetings with the council, I give them a list of all the local contractors that we are using, the local supply industry, even the local RS shop from whom I buy lots of components. When I turn up into their shop, they are happy to see I'm keeping 3 or 4 people, helping to keep them in a job by buying components from them. This is part of the industry. And then you need the local servicing industry, which is in this case is us, my company, that we can handle fuel cells. We know what to do with them. We can repair them. We can change the electrical system. We can do whatever. Gradually that will grow. We're going to get the public on our sites, create the local jobs, get the business going. Then we can export and generate the wealth that we all think we deserve. Thank you very much.
Very much, guys.
Pleasure.
That's through the specifics and the generalities as well. As you say, I got involved in putting some solar panels on our allotments clubhouse, and that was a marathon task to get through all the committees, and unbelievable. Anyway, it's open to questions now. We'd like to ask any specifics. Stuart.
Yeah. I gather there's like a hydrogen M4 corridor.
Yes.
Planning or something.
Yes.
There's work going on at the University of Birmingham. They're refueling plant at Bangor.
Yes.
Are you coupled in those? Because the infrastructure seems to be hugely important.
Yes, we are in a way. There are 2 refueling stations in London. One in this bus garage, which operates the London bus route RB1, and the second one in the Olympic Village. There's one opened by BOC in the Honda plant at Swindon, and there are 2 in Wales, South Wales, University of Glamorgan. And ours, this is a temporary installation, but really the plan is that we will be the other link in the M4 corridor, so that will provide that. And then you've got the triangle, that you've got the 4 or 5 that are installed in the Midlands, here in the University of Birmingham, in Coventry, Loughborough, where else? Anyway, you've got 3 at least. Yeah. So yeah, that's part of the route to getting to the point.
The station you've got in the Olympic Park, is it anywhere near the waterways?
No. It's not mine, but it's not. It's designed for road vehicles.
You want?
Yes.
Stuart's man.
How long does, sorry, Jazz, how long, you got 4 kilograms on board?
Yeah, that's our estimate of it lasting more than half a day. So we estimated that we needed somewhere between 6 and, we don't know about the hydrodynamics of the boat and how it'll smooth it. All the boaty people who come around and look at it say, wow, that looks really smooth, that'll glide through the water very easily. So we will find out that the part of the project is to learn the fuel consumption numbers and all the rest of it. But our first crude estimates at the time when we did the proposal that we need 6 to 8 kilograms per day. We've got a 4 kilogram tank on board, so we might get away with 1 fueling a day or probably 2 a day.
And how long will the fueling take?
Probably about 10-20 minutes. Yeah. Well, a lot of it is climbing up, because you're not driving. You have to climb up onto the bank. And
What's the length of the boat?
it's 11 meters.
And your cruising speed's going to be?
It was 6 knots is the limit allowed in Bristol Harbour, but it'll be much faster than I think we're going to set some sort of speed record with this boat. We don't know how fast it will actually go, because it's only an analysis, but we will run, when we run it, we'll put our foot down one day and we'll see how it goes.
More than 1.3 or 1.4 square root of the waterline minute.
Is that right?
That's a natural hull speed.
There you go.
There's a limitation on 12 passengers. You can still do it economically with that small?
No, it does not have a commercial case. To make it commercially viable will be, and the way the ferry, Bristol is not, the waterways in Bristol are not used heavily for ferry transportation, because the way that the waterways are laid out, it's almost quicker to walk in a straight line than take a ferry and go around like that, around the water system. But the way that the current ferry operators make their money is not on the daily people who are going round and round. It's the evening booze cruises and parties on board. So that's where we will make our money.
With that limitation, with the regulatory authorities, do you sense that if you operate a vessel with 12 passengers and there are no problems, that they will be flexible in allowing you to increase the size?
They will then write the regulations. They will use this boat as a point of reference and write the regulations to allow, the MCA will then be comfortable with it and allow the larger boats to be certified, in which case that opens the doors for everyone in this room and elsewhere.
That's their experience initially in terms of dealing with the authorities. They have no rules. See how it works. Once it works, they're a lot more flexible than about.
Yes, which is what I said at the beginning. In that one of our objectives is, it's not, when I say we've got to bring the public familiarization, it's not the public outside, it's the professionals as well as the politicians and people, even in universities, technically expert people. Nobody's familiar, not many people are familiar with hydrogen and fuel cells. So we make them familiar with it. They say, oh, that's okay, it's not a problem. Everybody's comfortable, they'll write the regulation, they'll sign pieces of paper, and that's what we need.
Okay, thank you very much, guys.